Hi guys. um, it has been a while. It's been nearly a year since my last upload, and I would like to say I am sorry. And before I started uploading again, I figured that we could have a chat, just a catch up about what I've been up to and where I've been, where I am now, what I'm seeing for the future, everything in between. So, again, I'm so sorry. I just got really in my head about putting out videos and what I wanted that to look like, and got very perfectionist about it and everything like that, but I'm trying to release that. So, hi, how's it going? If you are new here, welcome. My name is Rue or Rachel, either one works. And I post videos, hopefully, about my life and what I'm up to. And yeah, that's about it. If you have been here, hi, I'm really happy that you're still here. So, without further ado, let's just get into it, I guess. So, when I last posted a video, I was still in California. We had just sold our house. So we sold our house in Maine January 2022. Immediately jetted out to California. And we were living there for a while trying to make it work. But quite honestly, we just didn't have any sort of plan for what we were doing there. And my brain was like the inside of a soy marinated crab. It was just goop and depressive goop, and I wasn't able to like pull it together enough to make California work, honestly. I think had I been maybe in a different mindset, things would be a little different, but alas, here we are. So we got out to California. We were living with family out there. And after 6-ish months of being out there and not finding like really good enough paying jobs and just feeling like our sense of community still wasn't there, we had to come to Jesus with ourselves and what we were doing, and decided that we needed to go somewhere with a cheaper cost of living to kind of stabilize ourselves and figure out what we were doing and what we wanted and everything like that. So about June time, it was like probably late May, early June, we made that decision, and then we headed out on the road. But before this all happened, and really it's just a couple weeks before, we got a puppy. So we had been in to make a donation at the local animal shelter, and one of the workers there pulled us aside and said, "Hey, I have this puppy in the back." And it was like secret puppy stash. And we walked back there, and it was this little cattle dog puppy, and Elijah held her for a couple minutes and gave me this look, and I knew that look meant I need this puppy. And at that point, I was feeling a little more ready to get another dog after Indy passed and everything. And so we filled out the adoption papers, and a little bit later, we got notified that we were all good to go. She just had to have her surgery. And a couple days before we ended up moving, she got to us, and yeah, that's JoJo. So we got JoJo, we packed up the car, and we left. And we drove all the way to Florida. So we moved from Maine to California, then California to Florida. And if you're like, wow, that's crazy and expensive, it was. So we hit the road and we got to Florida, and thankfully we were in a position where we are able to rent a house that my parents had here. They actually live like a mile up the road from us, which is, if I'm being honest, both a blessing and a curse. But super privileged to be able to rent from them and be able to get here and get settled. Our whole goal with like moving back out here was just to like stabilize and figure out what we were doing, because we just didn't have a good plan. Everything with the house and selling it had gone very awry. If you want to hear more stories about that, I'm pretty sure I've talked about it in other videos. Everything was super last minute, so we definitely didn't have a plan. Like, we literally packed up our stuff in the middle of a snowstorm and closed that day and then had to leave. So there was all that, you know, craziness. And we just needed to have some sense of stability and plan before we moved forward, and we knew that. And honestly, I really thought I was not gonna like Florida, but I've ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. We are in the Daytona Beach area, and it's honestly great weather for the most part. We got here midsummer, and even with that, we were both kind of shocked at like how easy it was to still get outside every day and everything. I think it just sounded like people really hyped up Florida summers as being like incredibly hellish. And I think we're lucky enough where we live on the coast. We still get a really good ocean breeze every day. We're actually just a couple miles from the beach. So it does end up being a little cooler over here. But with all that said, this is where we're at now. So got out here, and you know, pretty much right away I started looking for jobs because I worked a little bit in California, but it wasn't anything major, and it didn't last too long because we decided that we were just going to be leaving anyway. So you know, we've just kind of been living off savings and things like that. So I looked for jobs, and the jobs out here are not the greatest. They don't pay super well. I was, you know, going into like a medical office, and they said that me asking over $14 an hour, or maybe even asking for $14 an hour, crazy shit, was too much. So wild times. And after looking at that, I decided like, well, if none of the jobs are going to pay well, I want to do something that I enjoy. So I started looking for work with animals, and that is how I started working at a humane society here. And long story short, I'm no longer with them for various reasons, and maybe that will be a story time later on. But in a lot of ways, I absolutely loved my time there. It was really great work. I do miss it. And then in other ways, I'm very happy to not be there, and very happy with the decision I made, and everything like that. But again, that's kind of a separate story time. It's like a long one to get into. So got a job over there and then started getting stable. Since we've been in Florida, it's been incredibly easy to make friends, which was not the experience that I had in California. Even when I was working in California, like, people were very insular, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, nobody really wanted to hang out with you. It was super weird because like some girls at work would just straight up ignore me despite like just trying to have a conversation with them. Like, I don't know you. I'm not trying to like get deep. It's just you don't even have the common decency to say hi to somebody. Super weird behavior. Whereas out here, it's not the case. People are very friendly, and it's very easy to make friends. And that's another reason why I do, you know, I think I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. But while I was working at the shelter, this is like a catch up, but also just like a story about how I've gotten all of the dogs that we have now, because you're gonna see in the next vlog that we have a lot of dogs now. So while I was working at the shelter, we had tons of puppies coming in and out. I was working in the admission side, which was difficult, but good at the same time. We dealt with like the intake of all animals and everything like that. So strays or owner surrenders, things like that. And I worked in the intake side of things as well, in terms of like the medical aspect. So giving vaccinations, checking out the animals, making sure that they're all good, that they don't need medical care or anything like that. And while I was working there, we had a tub of puppies come in. and they had been found at a trailhead after Hurricane Ian, which, side note, Hurricane Ian was freaking crazy. That was an incredibly crazy hurricane to have like my first hurricane with. We had water up to our front door. We had water inside the house at the end of the night. There were people kayaking in our street and fish in our lawn. And our road stayed flooded for like a couple days after. But somehow we kept power through like most of it, which was wild to me. But yeah, so this tub of puppies came in, and I don't know, something was just pulling at me. I felt like JoJo needed a friend too, and so I adopted one of the puppies in that tub, and my friend that I worked with at the Humane Society adopted her brother. And yeah, so we brought Holly home. She was the second puppo. Brought Holly home, my little Peagle, my little Min Pin Beagle is what they think she is. And she was so tiny. She was so tiny. She was 4 freaking pounds when she got in. She was probably about like 2-ish months. Her eyes were still blue. And she became the next addition to the family. And honestly, it mellowed JoJo out a ton. It was one of the best decisions that I have made. It's great having dogs who like other dogs as well, like that, you know, Indy, in my previous experience, she was very dog reactive, did not like other dogs, loved people, but was not okay with dogs at all. So I was never really able to like have another dog around her. So yeah, we got another puppy. And like right before I had left the Humane Society, I was starting to get that feeling of like, okay, I'm burning out again because the job that I'm doing is very emotionally charged. I need to switch to something else because I'm the type of person where if I am very emotionally invested in my work, I will not stop it. And I recognize that that is not healthy. It's not good for my relationships, whether it's romantic, friendships, family, anything like that, because I ditch everything else for my work. And again, that's not healthy. So I was starting to look for other things, and at the beginning of the year, I had considered medical coding. I just wasn't ready to start anything like that yet, and so about like November-ish, I ordered books to start doing a self-study program for medical coding because I knew I wanted a job that would have the ability for me to be fully remote, have good pay and insurance, and be something where I can leave it at the end of the day, where I can clock out and I'm just done and I don't need to think about it anymore because I'm not talking to actual patients. I'm not doing something that's super emotionally charged. I'm just simply coding numbers essentially. So there's that. And that is what I have been working on for this whole last part of the year. Unfortunately, in December, Elijah and I both got COVID. It was the first time, you know, that we got it, and it was very hellish. I had to take an entire month off of doing my self-study because I just did not feel well enough. It was brutal. And, you know, thankfully we didn't have to go to the hospital or anything. We're both fine now, but yeah, it was not fun. And then January came of this year, was still studying, just kind of catching up from that month off. Sasha came and visited early February, which was super fun. If you don't know who I'm talking about my friend Sasha Hippie, or Silenced Hippie. You can find her on YouTube, you can find her on Instagram under those handles. She's like one of my best friends, and yeah, it was really nice to have some girl time and see somebody who I'm just like very close with and love dearly. And then pretty much right after she left, I took my exam and I passed. I did it in like about half the time that they say that you should do your program. I did it 100% self-study, which there's a lot of people that take classes or even go to like a college and do a couple semesters there. And yeah, it's not an easy test to pass, so I feel great about that. And right now I'm just kind of working on that process of like finding jobs, entry-level jobs, and getting, when you pass your exam, you're technically like an apprentice. So I'm working on getting the apprentice status off of my certification as well. So I am amazed that I was able to get this much in like 15 minutes. I know I talked really quick, and I'm very proud of myself for staying on topic. But yeah, that has been like what I have been up to for the past year. It's definitely been a complete whirlwind of a year. There's been a lot of moments where I've been disappointed in the way things have worked out, a lot of moments where I've been very happy with the way things have worked out. I'm just trying to take everything in stride and, you know, kind of go from there. But crazy times. It's been a crazy year. Moving across the country twice in 1 year is not something that I would necessarily recommend for everybody. But that's just the way that life works out sometimes. Oh my gosh, I didn't even explain how we got this little nugget. So this is Holly's brother. Unfortunately, my friend who adopted him had to leave very suddenly, and she wasn't going to be able to keep him. So when she told me that, I said, well, obviously we will take him, and if we need to rehome him, we'll rehome him, but it will be a home-to-home transition. And if not, you know, he will be with us. But I also wanted to give her the ability to come back and get him if she wants him. So this is like an indefinite thing right now. I'm treating him as if he's our own. But you know, given if she ever wants to take him back, she's more than welcome to, because it's never an easy decision to make when you have to decide to, you know, leave your pet behind. So respect for, you know, anybody who's had to do that in the past. I've personally had to do it, and it's a very terrible feeling. So be the friend that you would want is the moral here. And yeah, now we have a third little nugget here. He just got here this past week, and they have all been settling in together. They're all doing great together. There haven't even been any major fights, which is like shocking to me. Again, after having Indy, she was super dog reactive. So any dog that we would bring in, she would just immediately try to fight, unfortunately. And yeah, it's been a very good, easy transition, which feels good. And they're all keeping each other so entertained. They all love each other so much. So it's really nice. I love having a lot of dogs around. I love dogs so much. I love them. But yeah, as far as like the future goes, like I said, I'm just working on the medical coding stuff. I'm trying to get into a position where I am like very stable in the work that I do and making good money and having good benefits, because we live in this great country called America where your health insurance is tied to your work. And if you don't have it tied to your work, you are typically on terrible health insurance for a crazy amount of money. So as far as the future goes, outside of just like kind of basic everyday living things, I would like to start doing more YouTube videos and things like that. This year I'm really trying to like simplify my life and also just live with full acceptance and gratitude and mindfulness, because the past year or so has just been very damaging for my mental health. And so I'm trying to accept where I'm at in life. I'm trying to accept my pace of life. I'm trying to accept the things that, you know, are out of my control, and just kind of move forward instead of just focusing on those, because it really doesn't help at all. And I am living proof for this at this point, because that's all I was doing. I was like a complete anxious basket case, and it didn't help me. That didn't help me out at all. And it's obviously easier said than done. It's very much so a practice, but that's what I'm focusing on, is just being like present and here and okay with things, and, you know, have the knowledge that if things are going shitty for a bit, it's going to be okay and it's all going to work out. So yeah, I don't know what that had to do with doing YouTube, but yeah, I'd like to do more YouTube videos. I'd like to do more content that's like, I'll probably do some vlogs, but I might not always be like doing a sit down talk style or like talking to the camera, things like that. I'd love to just continue documenting my life because it's fun and I enjoy it, and then share it with you guys, and, you know, hopefully you like it too. I'd like to do videos on like home stuff, because eventually we will be buying a piece of property. We just haven't found anything that's felt like us yet. And again, we just had to stabilize and make sure that we were good before we went and like yeeted all of our savings into a house or a piece of land or anything like that. I'd love to do more videos on home stuff. I'd like to do, I don't know, I guess that's kind of my main things. Like, I just want to document things in my life and share them. That's basically it. I don't have like much of a plan outside of that, if I'm being quite honest. I've been thinking about making a Substack as well. I've been seeing Substacks for like the past year or so, and I think it's a really fun way. It's kind of like a cross between an email newsletter and a blog, which I think is super cool. So I'd love to utilize that for like photo dumps and things. I have deleted things like Twitter and TikTok, and I have Instagram now, but I'm very seriously considering deleting that as well, because I just waste a lot of time on it. With my ADD, it's just very easy to get in cycles of just flipping through and scrolling. I mean, that's why I deleted TikTok as well, is that, you know, if I open it up, then I'm pretty much on it the rest of the day, and it's borderline addicting for my brain, and I just don't think that's healthy. You know, I have other things that I'd love to focus on that are not that. You know, I have goals that I'd like to achieve that aren't that. And again, like, I think YouTube would be fun because it's a longer form content. I'm able to kind of do it at my own pace and share things from a different perspective. Because I don't know how you guys feel about Instagram, but it's getting kind of bunk and everything is just the same. And that's really boring. Once everything becomes super homogenized in terms of like what you're seeing online, it's just, that's super boring. I don't want to see the same thing over and over again, personally. But that's about it. I have a couple goals for this year. I'm going to be talking about that in another vlog that I'm going to post. I've been vlogging all week. I'm super excited. I already have a lot of the footage uploaded onto my computer so that I can start editing. And yeah, I just figured it'd be good to do kind of a catch up since it's been a hot minute since I've posted anything on here. Instead of just being like, hi, here's a random vlog and now I'm in Florida and there's no context for why or what I'm doing here. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you if you've made it to the end of this very long kind of ramble video. I appreciate you so much for being here, and thank you if you have been here waiting for a video. Again, I'm really sorry for the delay, but you know, you gotta make sure that your mind's right before you're just like posting shit online, quite honestly. At least that's how I feel at this point in my life. Yeah, I think that's truly it. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.